Hey, y'all. Welcome to the podcast. Ray Edwards here. And today I've got my co-host, Jody Maberry, hanging out with me. Jody, you may or may not know him. He's a very well-known speaker. He's a former park ranger. He has the Park Ranger podcast. He's also a great copywriter and marketing consultant. He's one of my dear friends. He works with the former head of Disney World, Lee Cockrell. They have a mastermind they operate together called the Creating Magic Mastermind, as in Magic Kingdom. Jody is a fantastic human being, a great podcaster, and a good friend. So I just want to let you know, who's this other person Ray's talking to on the podcast? It's Jody freaking Maberry. So let's get happy. Let's get into it. Hello, Jody.
Ray Edwards, what a treat to be back with you.
It's always fun to hang out with you. You got some interesting things going on. You just got back from Orlando, I believe, from a magical mastermind meeting.
I did. Creating Magic Mastermind. Lee Cockrell and I do that event twice a year, usually April and October. That's our usual cadence, but we canceled the October one, so we did this one in January instead of April. I hadn't told you this, Ray, yet. We gave everyone there a copy of How to Write Copy That Sells.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? You were at the last one. You could have signed them for everybody then. We didn't give them then, but then when you're not there, we give one to everybody.
Well, it's tricky that way. I'm so sorry I missed this one. I plan to be there for the next one, which is in October, right?
That's right, October. I'm pretty sure that one will be the best one we've ever done, too.
I'm looking forward to it. Lee is a brilliant guy, a super friendly, helpful guy. Those are great events, so I can't wait to be there again with you two and all the other folks who are going to be there. It's always rewarding, always worth the trip.
Indeed, I think so.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit today about something that came up in a discussion with a couple of my clients recently, and that was they were saying to me, well, I'm not ready to launch my program, my coaching, my product, because I don't have a big enough audience yet. And I'm like, man, you got to let go of that idea. Because one of the people I was talking to had the impression they needed to have like 1 million subscribers on YouTube before they could have a business. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no. It's not that. I mean, what's your feeling on that, Jody?
Well, Ray, I got my start in podcasting with the Park Leaders Show. I started it 10 years ago. And it was a show for an audience that didn't even know they should be looking for a podcast. So I started it from scratch for park rangers, and it took a while to build up. And next month, I'm speaking to Michigan State Parks and also California Park Training Conference, all because of that show. So audience of 0, not even a small audience, an audience of 0 when I started.
I love that story because I've been with you on this journey for quite some time now. When you kind of adopted the whole, I'm going to be the guy who was a park ranger. I'm going to talk about being a park ranger. I'm going to have a park ranger podcast. And I love what's happened with you and for you because of that. And then I think about one of the people I was talking with about this subject earlier in the week was they were saying to me, look, I've only got like 300 people listening to my show. I'm like, dude, imagine this. Once a week, 300 people stand out in front of your house to hear what you have to say when you step out onto the front porch. I mean, would that impress you at all?
Oh
my
goodness!
Like, dang, this is important. These people have come to hear what I have to say. So I think we forget that behind those numbers are real people, and you don't need that many. Kevin Kelly wrote an article called 1,000 True Fans, which we'll link to in the show notes. And you probably have read it. I think everybody's read it. Everybody's referred to it. But it's worth going back and reading again because his premise is you don't need to have millions or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of fans. You just need 1,000 true fans who would give you like $100 a year, whatever you do. So that could be like 2 books for $50 each or whatever you make, music, books, podcasts, coaching, whatever you do. But if 1,000 true fans said, I'll pay you for whatever you do this year, and you charge them $100, that'd be $100,000 And for most people, that's life changing money. So I
Yeah.
just think we have this idea in our head it has to be bigger than it does have to be.
Well, and those 1,000 true fans, they start off with your first 10. And when you have a small audience, I think you can almost be friends with them. So it's not 10 fans, it's 10 friends. And that's where it all begins.
Yes. I mean, I remember when I first started my podcast and I had less than 100 downloads an episode for a long time. But I would go to events, conferences, and seminars, and I'd see people there who they thought I was famous. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I've heard your podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, you and my mom and 10 other people." Um, but I mean, they had this connection that you can't get any other way. And I think there's no other medium, no other social media platform other than YouTube and podcasts. And in this case, we're doing both at the same time,
Mm.
where you get this much time with people, where people will listen to you talk for 20, 30 minutes, or like with Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan or one of those guys, it'd be 2 hours of talking. Where else do you get that kind of attention from people? Not very many places.
Well, our dear friend who has recently passed, Dan Miller, when he would talk about podcasting, he would say, I'll meet people that read a book and they'll thank me for changing their life, or they saw me somewhere and speak and they'll tell me how much they appreciated it. But if anyone comes up and hugs me around the neck, that's a podcast listener because of how intimate this is.
Yeah, that's so true. I've got this little pug, this little one-eyed pug named Butter, and she's had some challenges. Obviously, she has one eye, so obviously she has some challenges. But I've had people ask me. I meet them at like social media marketing world, and somebody asked me, "How's Butter? She doing okay?" I'm like, "How do you know about Butter?" They said, "Well, because I heard you talk about it on your podcast." And I have to, even I still have to be reminded sometimes. Oh, I say just about anything on the podcast, and people pay attention and remember it.
Yeah. And what else is also unique about that? Let's say Ray talked about butter 52 episodes ago. So 1 year ago. But someone may have just listened to it last week and that's news to them. And Raymond may not even remember. So you'll have people come up and congratulate you or ask questions about something you don't remember because it's new to them because they just heard it. And it was 52 weeks ago for you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's true. So, something I want to talk about a little bit, if you don't mind, that really illustrates this point that we're trying to make, which is there's 2 points I really wanted to try to drive home today. One is you don't need a big audience to make a good living. You can have a small podcast or show or following. You can have small events, and you can make big money as a result if that's one of your goals. You don't have to, but if you want to, it's available. And there's no better illustration to me of this principle of how important it is because we talk about when you're making your podcast, make it as if you're having a conversation with one person because that's what feels the most intimate to people who are listening. I love listening to people who I feel like they're talking to me, just talking to me. It's like Tony Robbins made this podcast for me. So great. Um, you actually made a podcast for one person, and then amazing things happen. Can you share that story?
Yeah, well, it is. My son went away to college, first of our two children to leave home, and we're a close family. And I was feeling a little down that I'm not going to be a daily influence on my son's life. August is his name. So he went away to college, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to do a daily podcast for you, August. Every morning, there's going to be a new message waiting for you." And that's what I've done is start a podcast where every morning, 5 a.m., there's a new message for August. The show is meant just for him. I did not know what channel he would listen or podcast platform he would listen on. So I put it on all of them because he's 18. If it's not easy, he's not going to do it. I say that with love, but it's true. So I knew it has to be everywhere. So it's wherever he will be. So I put it on all the platforms. Every morning it's a short message. I think the longest has been 5 minutes. The shortest has been like 30 seconds. It doesn't matter the length, but it's daily and it's meant for him specifically. if you listen to an episode, it always starts out with, "Hey, August." Usually, if it's a guest, Ray's done a couple, and he starts out, "Hey, August, this is Uncle Ray." And it's very clear. You cannot listen to that and not realize it is meant for one single person. That's it. Just August. If I got one listen a day, I would be so happy because that's all it's meant for. But
Yeah,
it has
goal achieved.
goal achieved. That's right. And sometimes people will say, "Well, do you know if he listens to it?" I hope he does. One time though, I mentioned I had surgery on my face and I forgot to tell August. And then later that day, he texted me and said, "Hey, what's going on with your face?" Which is a question you have always wonder when someone says, "What's going on with your face?" But August texted me, and one, I like that because it shows he cared enough. But two, it showed okay, he is listening. But here's what has happened: is although I don't promote it, I don't put it out there. It doesn't have its like a blog post for every page. It's just out there. And the last time I checked, the show that's meant for a single person has been downloaded 7,500 times, which that's incredible, Ray.
Yeah, that is amazing. 7,500 times for a podcast you literally made for one single person.
Yeah, literally for one person. Not Ray and I will talk about act like you're talking to one person. This one literally is for one person. It's very clear it's for one person, but there's been something about it that people have just liked. People even have even said, not only are the lessons good, but I feel like I'm part of something special going on between two people.
Yeah, here's my theory, Jody, on what's happening there. The value you place on creating this podcast is enormous because you're doing it for your son, and the love you infuse it with, and the level of priority it has in your life. I know you've been very dedicated to getting it done, and I think that translates. People feel that, they hear it, and they want to share it. Want other people to hear it, and the podcast algorithm, whatever that means, the AI that watches our streams and says, "Oh, this person listened all the way to the end of that," and then they shared it with somebody else. The podcast deities that exist start seeing that and sharing it on their own and start sharing it to more people. So the lesson I think people can take from this is make a podcast, video or audio or both, and give it that importance. Figure out what you're trying to say, what you're talking about, something, make it something you care about, and do it dependably, reliably at the same time, every week or every day, whatever you're going to do, and infuse it with the love and the care that Jody puts into this podcast for his son. And you'll see the results over time. It won't happen in the first episode. It takes time.
No. Yeah, and I want to enhance what Ray's saying because I hadn't thought of it that way, but Ray's right. I record these episodes like something's at stake because it is for me. This is my son trying to get through his first year of college. If you record your messages, whether it's YouTube video or a podcast, like something's at stake because there is the people that listen, there is something at stake for them. And if you care enough to treat it like that, it will ripple out. And Ray, I'm going to take a moment since we're talking about it. I'm sure you might be curious. What is it? Well, the show is called In the Front Row. And I called it that because I thought, well, I don't need a good title because it's just meant for August. And the first lesson was sit in the front row on the first day of class and stay there. So I just called it In the Front Row and have ever since. And half the lessons are from me and half the messages are from other people because you remember when you were 18, it means more if there are other people like Uncle Ray reinforcing the messages that you're hearing from your father. So, August looks up to Ray. August has known Ray for, I don't know, long time. He remembers Ray just always being around. So it helps to hear messages like that.
Yeah, I'm curious who's August hearing from today.
Oh, well, today's message was from Don Miller, which how cool is that if you're an 18-year-old in college? And so Don Miller was a recent message. Lee Cockrell, who we've talked about already, he's ran Disney World for 10 years. He does a message to August not every week, but probably 2 or 3 times a month, because Lee feels like he has a stake in what happens with August too. So it's pretty cool to be an 18-year-old and just have this lineup of people giving you messages, because he's heard from me. I don't know how impactful what I say is, but it is impactful that I show up every day for him, and then he hears from other people too.
Yeah. I mean, all right. And I want to put myself in the listener's position right now. And I think they may be thinking, well, okay, but I don't know all those people that Jody just names. That's the secret. That it won't work for me because I don't know all those famous people. That is incorrect, my friend. You just need to do your thing with your people, or just you. I mean, I think about Dwayne with Dry Creek Wrangler. Have you seen this YouTube channel?
No, I
Jody?
haven't.
Okay, this guy has a dude ranch, I think in Wyoming, and he looks like Sam Shepard. He's the ultimate like 50 plus cowboy guy. And his channel, again, there's no editing, there's no flashy titles or anything like that. Just him, he comes on, he's like, hello, y'all. It's Dwayne from Dry Creek Wrangler. I'm gonna talk to you today about having integrity in life. And he just does this whole thing on his cowboy wisdom. It's mesmerizing because it's what he cares about. So whatever you find important or interesting or fascinating or fun or funny, just do your content about that and keep showing up, and your audience will find you. I believe that.
Great points. And here's something that most people don't even think about when it comes to a podcast is you put perhaps too much weight on the audience and who's going to be listening. But something really special happens when you show up every week, or in this case, every day on the one I'm doing. But let's say every week, because that's a good rhythm for a show. When you have to show up every week with something to say, something magical happens with you, because you start to realize what you believe in. You realize how to talk about it. The consistency starts to impact you. You're better at answering questions. You can just show up and talk without much notice. I mean, something really special happens, even if you do a show and only me and your mother listen.
You know, I love that. That's powerful insight. And I also love doing this show with you. So I'm going to try and experiment and see how long I can get you to do this without me paying you.
Well, all right. We'll see.
So I'll invite you back next week.
All right. I'm here, Ray.
Cool. Jody, my friend, I thank you. Appreciate it so much. And check out the podcast that Jody mentioned. We'll put the links to everything we talked about in the show notes or in the description underneath the YouTube video, as we do both YouTube and audio podcast. And until the next time, I pray that God will do more for you than you can ask or possibly even imagine, and that you live long and prosper with purpose. See y'all next time.